My friend, psst, my friend. Michael felt the tugging on his sleeve and opened his eyes. It was still dark, but he felt like he'd been sleeping forever. My friend, a figure hissed, I can't even see this word, hissed urgently, please, if you will, come with me. After being practically jerked to his feet, Michael followed the outline of a small, stocky man. As he stepped around barrels, ropes, and poles, working his way to the center of the boat. Trying to keep up, Michael almost tripped several times until finally the man stopped at the base of the mast. The large pole, bigger than Michael could have reached, rose up into the darkness. Supporting the mainsail, it was covered in ropes and buckles. Without a glance at Michael, the man said simply, up, motioned with his hand for Michael to follow. The man climbed so fast he was almost out of sight in seconds. Michael hurried to keep up, but it was like a crawling space, crawling through a spider's web. In only a short time, however, he felt the hand grasp the back of his shirt. Small man was very strong. He heaved Michael up over the lip and into a wooden cup built around the top of the mast. They were in the crow's nest. The man smoothed Michael's shirt where he had grabbed it, then placed both hands on Michael's shoulders. Welcome, my friend, he said, but with enthusiasm. I am most honored to make your acquaintance. And your name is? My name is Michael. Michael Holder. Ah, Senor Holder, may I call you Michael? Yes, of course. Excellent. Are you hungry? No, not really. Good. We have very little to eat. What we do have contains wee bugs. Michael winced. But there's no problem, the man said. You will see, our journey is almost at an end. Despite the darkness, the reflection of the stars from the water illuminated the crow's nest in a soft glow. Michael could see the man clearly now. He had reddish brown hair, very curly, fell almost to his shoulders. A triangular green felt hat was set far back on his head, the forward pointing toward the sky. Rest of the clothes, except for a stout canvas jacket, were in tatters. The man's pants fell in strips around his ankles. His shoes were virtually non-existent. Hard leather wrapped around his feet. What's your name, sir? Michael asked. Why, yes, of course. The man put a hand to his head. How rude of me. I am Captain Colin. Captain Cristobal Colin, master of the Santa Maria, at your service. He gave a bow. Santa Maria? Colin, a bit confused. Columbus? Is the English pronunciation of my name. You are Columbus? Christopher Columbus? Yes, but your Portuguese is flawless. I naturally assumed. Michael grinned. I'm speaking Portuguese only today. Columbus tilted his head as if he were trying to see what Michael thought was humorous. I see, he said, though clearly he did not. Clapping his hands and rubbing them together, Columbus changed the subject. Whatever it is that you are doing tonight, the night itself will soon be over. The sun will join us shortly. Rocking of the vessel seemed more intense in the high perch, but otherwise Michael felt safe, almost comfortable. Looking behind the Santa Maria, he could just make out the shadow of two other boats. The Nina and the Pinta, Michael asked, proud of himself for remembering the names from his studies of Christopher Columbus. Why, yes, Columbus answered. Seaworthy vessels both, but not quite as luxurious as this. He flung his arm below him toward the deck of the Santa Maria. Michael tried not to smile. Do you know where you are? Certainly, Columbus asked. I'm right here. Do you know where you are? Michael looked around. The Atlantic Ocean? Good, good, Columbus said, clapped Michael on the back. You're a wonderful navigator. Michael was a little uneasy. Do you really not know where you are? Does that have any bearing on what I can accomplish? Columbus said. I don't quite understand. I heard that question in one form or another since I was a child, Columbus began. Do you know where you are? Do you know what you are? Colin, you are uneducated. Colin, you are poor. You are the son of a weaver. What do you know about the sea? He shook his head in disgust. Do you know where you are? Is a question that interests me not in the least. Now, do you know where you're going? That's a question I like, and I answer. So ask me that. Excuse me? Ask me. Do you know where you're going? Ask me. Okay, Michael shrugged. Do you know where you're going? For the next few minutes, they'd been in the crow's nest, they had conversed in rather quiet, measured tones. At this point, however, Columbus received the question he had been waiting for. He boomed out the answer, carrying across the water. It sounded like the voice of God himself. Throwing his head forward, pointing into the western sky, he said, Yes, yes, I know where I'm going. I'm going to a new world. Shivers ran up Michael's spine as he watched the great explorer point to the darkness. For a moment, neither said a word. Clearing his throat, Michael broke the silence. How long since you left Spain? 64 days, Columbus said, lowering his arm. Today we shall see land. Look behind us. Michael turned and saw a brightening in the eastern sky. Dawn will be breaking soon. When it does, directly in front of the Santa Maria will be land. Beautiful land with trees and fruit and animals and people who will welcome us as heroes. Water gushing from the ground will be cold and pure. It'll be sprinkled with diamonds. There will be a place for men's dreams to come true, a glorious new world claimed by Cristobal Colon in the name of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Michael leaned forward. They're the king and queen of Spain, right? Columbus nodded. They're the financiers of this expedition. King John of Portugal, my king, said no to the grand opportunity, as did the kings and queens of many other countries. It took 19 years to find a sponsor. For 19 years, I endured the agony of public humiliation for my convictions. What convictions? Michael asked. The conviction, Columbus said, his voice rising. No, the absolute certainty that I can establish a new trade route by sailing west. Columbus grabbed Michael by the shoulders and shook him once, and he said, my friend, the world is a sphere. It's not flat. We are sailing around the earth on the smooth glass of a sphere. We will not fall off the imaginary edge. And you're the only person who believes that? At this moment, yes, Columbus admitted. But that bothers me not in the least. Truth is truth. If 1,000 people believe something foolish, it's still foolish. Truth is never dependent on consensus of opinion. But don't you care that people, they think you're crazy? My friend, Columbus said with a smile, if you worry about what other people think of you, then you will have more confidence in their opinion than you have in your own. Poor is the man whose future depends on the opinion and permission of others. But how? Columbus put his hand up to silence him. Please, my friend, quiet for a time. Michael did as he asked and followed his gaze into the western sky. Sun was just beginning to rise, creating miles of a glimmering ocean. Columbus peered ahead and for one full minute didn't move. 2 minutes, 10 minutes. Only his eyes shifted as he scanned the line where the water touched the sky. After half an hour, Columbus straightened his back and rubbed his eyes. Nothing? Oh, yes, something, Columbus said. You see land? Yes, great man said simply. Michael frowned. He still couldn't see it. Point it out, if you don't mind. Senor Holder, you're looking in the wrong direction. Today you will not see land off the bow of my ship. You will only see land by looking into my eyes. Michael felt like he'd been tricked. So no land. Oh, yes, there's land, and it's right there. Pointing past the bow of the ship, I see it as plainly as I see you. Columbus was silent as he gazed into the water. For a brief time, Michael didn't breathe. His eyes were fixed on the man before him. What could I accomplish, Michael wondered, with a spirit as powerful as this? Columbus inhaled deeply and turned to Michael. Most people fail at whatever they attempt because of an undecided heart. Should I? Should I not? Go forward, go back. Success requires a committed heart. When challenged, the committed heart will search for a solution. The undecided heart searches for an escape. Columbus cleared his throat, coughing gently, then continued. A committed heart does not wait for conditions to be exactly right. Why? Because conditions will never be exactly right. Indecision limits the Almighty and His inability to perform miracles in your life. If He has to put the wisdom in you, proceed. To wait, to wonder, to doubt, to be indecisive about that vision, well, that's just disobeying God. Without taking his eyes off the water, Columbus reached under his jacket, removed a parchment. For you! Unfolding it, he handed it to Michael. Michael took the yellowed paper, glanced at it briefly, and said, You will find your new world. Columbus' eyes still straight ahead says, Yes, I know. Michael smiled and shook his head in wonder. How do you know? Columbus turned and looked at Michael. I have a decided heart, he said, and looked back. Standing one last time, staring at the man who had penned the words, Michael began to read. A wise man once said a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Knowing this to be true, I'm taking my first step today. For too long, my feet have been tentative, shuffling left and right, more backwards than forward as my heart gauged the direction of the wind. The power to control direction belongs to me. Today I will begin to exercise that power. My course has been charted. I have a decided heart. I am passionate about my vision for the future. I will wake up every morning with an excitement about the day and the opportunity it holds. My thoughts and actions will work in a forward motion, never sliding into the dark forest of doubt or the muddy quicksand of self-pity. I will freely give my vision for the future of others, and as they see the belief in my eyes, they will follow me. I will lay my head on the pillow at night, happily exhausted, knowing that I've done everything within my power to move the mountains in my path. As I sleep, the same dream that dominates my waking hours will be with me in the dark. Yes, I have a dream. It's a great dream, and I will never apologize for it. Neither will I ever let it go, for I did, my life would be finished. A person without a dream has never had a dream come true. I have a decided heart. I will not wait. What I put off until tomorrow, I will put off into the next day as well. I do not procrastinate. All my problems become smaller when I confront them. If I touch a thistle with caution, it will prick me. But if I grasp it boldly, its spines crumble into dust. I will not wait. I am passionate about my vision for the future. My course has been charted. My destiny is assured. I have a decided heart. The Bible is replete for those who would not put off until tomorrow what they can accomplish today. Those who refuse to procrastinate. Those who are passionate about their future. Those who charted their courses, assured their destiny. And those who dare to dream because. I'm going to pause a little bit here and interject this. I have long said, dream big or go home. What's that saying? Can't run with the big dogs, get off the porch. So many items appear on my bucket list. And the last thing on my list, and you already know this because I told you before, is a skyscraper. I want to own a skyscraper. They start at $30 million. Zig Ziglar says, aim low. Guess what? You'll hit it every time. I don't like to aim low at anything I do. I would rather aim for the unreachable. So pardon the personal reference, but I don't have anybody else to reference. I'm just a country boy with humble beginnings from Louisiana. But I have in my lifetime climbed the Eiffel Tower. I've beheld pollen in a flower. I've marveled at the ruins of ancient Rome. We have visited 47 of these United States, half the presidential libraries, and we've toured 32 countries. I've scaled the steps of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, kissed the Blarney Stone. That was disgusting. Glad I scratched that one off. Not doing that one again. Actually visited, saw with my own eyes the Rosetta Stone. How cool is that? I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was a course where you learn Spanish. I stood with my back to the Pantheon, and I stood on Mars Hill, the exact spot where the Apostle Paul uttered these words. For as I passed by and beheld your devotion, I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God, whom you so ignorantly worship. Paul preached from that very spot about the one true God. I have met one-on-one with the governor of my state. I once stopped the leader of the free world dead in his tracks. I've walked up and shook hands with the sitting president of the United States. Why am I telling you this? To brag? Not on your life. Not even close. I subscribe to the theory that God gives us experiences in life so we can share and we can inspire. Also, to bring credence to the following statement, a person who has never dreamed has never had a dream come true. I'm a man that loves quotes. Absolutely love quotes. That's my favorite quote in all the world. If you've never had a dream, you've never had a dream come true. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, do not give up on your dream. Never, 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 never until we take our final breath. Moses stood on the bank of the Red Sea with those behind him that were left in his charge. 625,000 men, not counting women and children. History tells us there could have been as many as 3 million people following Moses on that day as he led their exodus from Egypt. With Pharaoh's army behind them and attacked by mountains on both sides, and in the midst of abject adversity, Moses must have thought, the power to control direction belongs to me. Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah disobeyed the king's orders, bowing down to his image. You know them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Bowing down to any other god other than the one true God was not an option for this dynamic trio. They decided against sliding into the dark forest of doubt or the muddy quicksands of self-pity. Their hearts must have gauged the direction of the wind. By faith, I feel the spirit of Lonnie Jordan on me right now. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down as they were compassed about 7 days. By faith, the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. What shall I more say, for the time shall fail me, to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson, of Jephthah, David also, Samuel, and the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight. They annihilated the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead raised to life again. Others were tortured, not accepting deliverance that they too might obtain a better resurrection. Those who followed behind them in their footsteps became benefactors of their collective, decided hearts. And others had trial mockings and scourging, yea, moreover, of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, they were tempted, they were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskin and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, and tormented. You think we've got a bad word about our car note? These guys had it rough. They wandered in deserts, in mountains, and in dens, and in the caves of the earth. Ever wonder what all of them had in common? I love that word, wonder. It's like a child's wonder. Ever wonder what they all had in common? 2 things, actually. Number one, that's one of them. They had faith. Can't do any of this without faith. Number 2, they had decided heart. They were endowed by their Creator. They lived their lives by intention and by design. They gave it all they had. Ever wonder what the Holy Writ said about them? Pause for a second. Of whom the world was not worthy. Wow. You can't get any better compliment. The world is not worthy of you and the life that you're living. What shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Jake and Kayla and Leisha and Jennifer and Jonathan, Tim and Sabrina, Lindsay, Monica, Phil and Robin, Jason and Kristen, Levita, April, Erica, Mike, Frank, Crystal, Tiffany, Brian and Rebecca, Josh and Holly, Rhonda, Anthony, I didn't forget about you. Through faith, all of you have subdued kingdoms. You've wrought righteousness. You obtained promises. You stopped the mouths of spiritual lions. You quenched the violence of fire. You escaped the edge of the sword. Out of weakness you were made strong. You waxed valiant in fight. And you annihilated the armies of your enemies. I didn't know that you were that powerful, did you? You really are. Each and every one of you have decided hearts. You know what the Bible would say about you if it was still being written? It is. Of whom the world is not worthy. Sister Kayla, when you get up in the morning, you go to work, your desk 20 feet away, still in your house coat, remember you're a child of God, and the world's not worthy of any of us. I'm not. What time is it? Yeah, we got the time. Okay. Let's talk about David Livingstone. Anybody ever heard of David Livingstone? Raise your hand. David Livingstone. Got one in the bag. My wife and I visited the UK a few years ago, and we stopped by Westminster Abbey. Beautiful building, a lot of history. Recently, Queen Elizabeth was buried there. Prince Charles, Lady Diana, they were married there. King Charles was coronated there. I had one question for the staff. I said, where is David Livingstone's grave? Livingstone literally filled in the map of Africa, exploring all of its main rivers, covering 29,000 miles, greater than the circumference of the earth. Now that sounds like a lot of miles, but you got to remember this is in the 1840s, 1850s. People often amazed at how Livingstone, who could have chosen a comfortable life in the UK, instead sacrificed his life to care for the African people. In speaking to the Cambridge faculty and students, Livingstone remarkably commented, People talk about the sacrifice that I've made in spending so much of my life and time in Africa. Can that really be called a sacrifice? Which is simply paying back a debt to God as a small part of what I owe Him that I can never repay. I place no value in anything that I may possess except in relationship to the kingdom of Christ. I shall promote the glory of God. To Him I owe all my hopes in time and eternity. David Livingstone took his last breath, died of malaria, April 27th, 1862. The continent of Africa begged England for the body of Livingstone to be buried amongst the people he served for decades. England refused their request, so they asked instead for his heart. Though his body was laid to rest in Westminster Abbey in London, his heart was buried in Africa. Splashed across the national newspapers, across the entire continent of Africa, the next day were these words: England, you may have his body, but we have his heart. Florence Nightingale said that God had taken away the greatest man of his generation. For you see, David Livingstone had a decided heart. What will be said about you and I? Story still unwritten. It's up to us to control the narrative. One thing is sure, we have decided hearts. Now I'm going to utter the most profound and favored two words among Pentecostalists. In conclusion. Don't you love hearing that? You're like, da, 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 da. In conclusion, like, okay, now we're down to 20 more minutes. Do I even have it? I think I did. Let's see here. So, the other day, I went to a store and I bought some merchandise, and it was about $39 and some change, 30-something dollars. So I laid out 4 crisp $10 bills. They were brand new. I don't think they were circulated. So the lady took the bills and she ran them through this little machine. I'd never seen one like that. Have y'all? Counterfeit machine. I always see the pen, you know. Raise your hand if you've ever been hit with a counterfeit pen when you hand them the merchandise. Yeah, all of us. So when I got done, she handed me my change. I said, wait a minute, we're not finished. She goes, what do you mean we're not finished? You got your change. And I took my change she gave me and I reached over and I ran it through the counterfeit machine. I said, you're always concerned about what I give you, but what if you're giving me counterfeit money back? So I thought about it on this fashion. I've been to, I don't know, thousands of banks, hundreds of banks, thousands and thousands of transactions over my decades of living. And I couldn't recall one time wherever a bank employee said, hang on a minute, sir. You ever seen that? Never. I was curious. I'm an inquisitive guy. So I went and asked my banker. He said, that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that before. I said, do I get an answer? He goes, yeah, sure. He said, you know, we go to school before we go into the job of banking. I said, yeah, I figured you probably did. He said, we study the currency. This is kind of a funny look when y'all probably noticed. He said, we study currency and we look at every detail. Contour of the paper, color of the ink, position of the president's face, the opaqueness of the financial instrument, the numerical serial number, the thinness of the paper. They study everything. I said, oh, now that's amazing. So you study all the counterfeit money out there? He goes, no, we don't study any counterfeit money. We study this one. That's it. I said, that's interesting. I said, keep talking. I'm listening. He said, we become such an expert at the real thing that when we finally realize that somebody passes something that looks kind of like this, not counterfeit, I don't think. Got a bunch of them. We see that it's not the real thing. Could it be said that all of us are experts in determining how real other people are? What does that have to do with a decided heart? Glad you asked. You didn't ask, did you? Somebody want to ask? Because we have to be real. There's only one way to be real, and that's to have a decided heart. Outside these walls, there's going to be people that are going to be watching each one of us. Make no mistake about it. They're experts at determining character of a human. They understand real. They understand fake. We all do. I'm thankful today that we have a decided heart and we can be real. I want to be real so bad. Some days I don't feel like I am. When you did all this, the Grand Pooser, I'm like, where's this guy you keep talking about? My wife told me one time that others see you differently than you see yourself. I can look at you and I can tell you the best things, top notch of you guys. And you're looking at, who's he talking about? Right. That's the way people see us. In my lowest time of despair in my life, my wife has had to remind you, you are this, you are this. This is how other people see you. If you have a decided heart, why don't we give the Lord a hand clap of praise as I exit?